Okay, thank you. We'll call the Board of Finance meeting to order. Chris, would you do the roll, please?
Alvarez. Here. Michael Chen. Colin Dobbin. Here. Bob Hamill. Todd Levieri.
Here.
Chris Labrise is here. Nick Matrakis.
Here.
Jen Schaefer. Tom Schulte.
Here.
Maria Weingarten.
Here.
James Yao. Yana Carlson.
Okay.
So you have to see.
Same again? Yep.
Yes, you have to-
We'll seat Nick for Bob.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
Chris, thank you. All in favor? Aye, opposed, none. Okay. We have minutes to approve also from our regular meeting on June 11th. Any changes, edits? So we have a motion to approve.
I'll move. To approve.
Second. Nick, all in favor? Aye, opposed, none? Okay.
Abstain.
Do you want, yep. Do you want to give a quick update?
No.
Okay. Wow.
I mean, you gave me the options.
I did. It was a question, not a statement.
Well done.
Now to Deanna for
It's
her update.
8:07.
All right, fair enough. Well, great fireworks. I will say that the fireworks were extraordinary. Family Fourth was, I'm sure, a success and looked like it was a great event, I thought. So, anyway. Okay, Deanna. Josh, yeah. So things look like they came in so far as expected.
Yeah, pretty much.
Only good news. That's a good open. That's Josh, you know.
So, in front of you, you have the year-to-date financials as of June 30th. Obviously, these are very preliminary.
Can you turn on that mic?
So,
next to
sorry.
you, please? Thank you.
Okay, so in front of you, you have the June 30th year-to-date financials. These are preliminary, as of course, through the next couple months, we're doing various entries and especially on the expenditure side, kind of clearing out everything and booking everything that hasn't made it onto here yet. But starting on the revenue side, the overall revenues are at 101.44% or 2.3 million over what was budgeted. The total budget was 162.9 million. Down at the tax collections is at 101.17% or 1.7 million over the budget. This represents about a 99.3 tax collection rate that was calculated, I believe, about last month. Building.
So just so to be said, we budget 98.5. We've collected 99.3. That's a little. I mean, it's a little on the low side.
There's still probably
These will come in. Yeah. Okay.
that probably doesn't include the little bit through June that got
Yeah,
through.
okay,
Get a
okay,
10%
all right,
here or there.
Okay.
Building permits.
Great number too, of course.
Took a jump from last month and finishing around 125% of what was budgeted, or 16,000 over that, and 118,000 over last year.
Diving catch.
Yeah.
Really, that's incredible. From where we were in May, even in June.
Conveyance fees ended also at 105%, which is about 85,000 over what was budgeted, and still slowly sloping downward from last year, about 80,000 under last year, but it's still hitting about where we kind of normalize that pre-COVID era. Parking it ended up at about 88% or 100,000 under what was budgeted, and 16,000 over last year. So we're still kind of thinking that's on the upswing, slow upswing.
Josh, is that still from the commuter parking mainly, or is that just a street
It is,
parking?
yeah.
Commuter, still down, huh?
It is, yeah. Down to interest on investments, that's at 172% or 650,000 over what was budgeted. And that's an increase of over last year of $188,000. Tipping is falling short at 71%, 130 under what was budgeted, and also 100,000 under what we had last year collected for that. Any questions?
Any reason for that?
I don't know the actual reason for the tipping going down. I think it's
Any thoughts, Tiger?
no, the revenue for it this year.
It missed by 30%.
That's a big miss.
People generating less garbage is a good thing.
Recycling is up.
Did we over budget for this year? If that's true, that's a question.
I think we did lower
I thought we
the
did too.
budget for tipping fees.
Excess cost, is that the final number? Oh, okay, so that's a disappointment.
Yeah, they're constantly redoing the formula.
And it's going
Let
down.
me just tell you that I'd like to help them with that formula because clearly there's
This,
something.
this is primarily for special ed reimbursement.
It is for special ed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Any other
You know,
questions?
we budgeted this year for that? Was it $1 million?
Over this year.
Okay,
Oh, sorry.
Josh, what are the biggest categories in other revenues?
The biggest ones, so that's actually if you just look at the
Okay.
last, second to last page. Unrealized loss gain is actually at the top of it. Municipal revenue sharing. Let's see, state property rebates, liens, fees, and interest are also kind of a big one. On tax collections. There's some like permitting and things like that that are in there. And the Lapham Senior Center programs in there, that's actually outperformed by about 44,000, which is a pretty big jump. Things like that.
Thank you.
so that's, that could go up a little bit more because you said there'll be some more taxes coming in for,
Probably right now, today.
oh, more than a little bit. Okay. On the expense side?
On the expense side, right now, we are at 98.03% of what was budgeted, with about 4.2-ish million remaining. Of that 4.2, there's about $1 million of encumbered monies that we can expect are to be expended, but we're kind of looking into now how much of that will be returned. And that within that is kind of what we expect the savings to be, which is pretty much on par with what we were looking at projecting during the mill rate discussion, if not slightly outperforming what we were expecting.
On the contingencies, we had originally budgeted 650,000. We increased it by 166,000, and we haven't spent any of it. Is there a reason for the increase, and are we expecting to spend any of that?
So we definitely have spent some contingency money. It's not spent, it's transferred out of contingency. We don't ever actually expend anything within the account contingency. It just kind of sits there as a budget item for us to do a budget transfer out of, one of which that you would have to vote on, obviously, because that's kind of one of the functions.
But Victor, if the teen center or the nature center or something, a tree warden, we had to do some major cleanup and we only budgeted $10,000 for that expense. They need 25, comes out of the contingency. So everything on this page could tap into that a little bit at a time.
So what did we budget originally?
So-
And how much have we transferred?
So that
in?
number would have increased only because we transferred savings in other lines to that contingency line as kind of a holding place in a, I guess, neutral department to then be transferred out as needed elsewhere. And I think there were savings in debt service. That was one thing. There was,
So if we realized through savings, as Josh says, debt service was a true savings because we didn't bond, we took that money and put it into contingency to segregate it so it's in contingency. It increased the contingency. And then we had throughout the year, we had different items that we've come before the board to cover other items. So it's the net, the increase is actually the net of that savings from the debt service and some other items that we pulled out.
You turn your mic on.
So we're probably not going to spend the 816.
Oh, no, no,
So are we budgeting too much for contingency? Like
No.
in general?
no, the reason it went high was because we had $600,000 of items from the debt service that we weren't going to spend. So that's an anomaly. That would not normally happen.
The name contingency, I think, is what is the problem. It's really the savings account, right? Where you put the excess.
If we
Underwriting
realize it,
saving.
we'll put it in there, but contingency we need for things that come up obviously during the year that we've had some, there'll be some in front of you actually tonight that we put into the budget projections for the end of the year.
I think there was also from the land use department, like a full-time salary that got transferred over to contingency earlier in the year when it had been discovered that we weren't going to fill that position. So that alone was 80 or so
Right.
thousand. That kind of created that buffer within there.
Thanks.
So you said there are 4.2 million underspent for now. There's $1 million of that, which is already earmarked.
Yep.
uh,
For now.
For now. So how, do we think what, we're 3.5 million we end up
There's
with?
another 780 that's going to come through between payroll. We have payroll at the end of the year, so
Yeah.
the next payroll has
Yeah,
to get.
and the
right, so
Board of
that-
Ed has yet to do that.
Board of Ed, we brought into where we think they're going to be because their
Yep.
balloon payment's already been done. So we
Oh,
just have
okay.
smaller ones. We're the one that have to do a split payroll. So between that, we have another payment still left to one of the schools that's required by state statute. And I forget the last one that we had. There was 3 items that are outside the encumbrance that will still happen. And that was about 700,000 as well.
There's $1.7 million
Seven.
coming out of this.
Still,
So it's 2.5.
Yeah, about 2.5 right now, barring
The
anything else.
2.5 save on the operating, 2.5 over collected on the revenue, so $5 million.
that's bigger than we had planned.
We planned 3.9.
No, no,
Yeah,
I
we
was gonna
planned
say closer to-
3.9.
Yeah, 3.5 to
So-
4. Yep.
We're probably over additional on revenue by about 300,000 and possibly about 6 right now on expenses,
We'll see. We'll see.
depending on where those encumbrances come at the end of the year.
It's too early to call it, but we'll
Yeah,
see.
that's a number to just say they won't get spent as
That would
we
be
have that
nice.
60-day.
Okay. Sharpen those
So no
pencils.
meeting in August, but you will do another one of these after July? Or you won't do anything else for last year? You'll just.
We can do one
I
for
think we did
September.
a look back last year for like a more finalized.
Yeah, we should know what that is. We
end
we can also
of
do it in
year
September. I
financial.
mean, I
That's
don't-
fine.
yeah.
Yeah.
yeah. When you'll have everything, I would think. buttoned
We'll
up
turn
by
over the books to the auditors in September
Yeah,
anyway,
there
so
you
the
go. So
majority
we'll
of
know.
everything
Okay,
has
alright,
to be done by
okay.
then, so.
Yeah, we'd like to know. We planned on 3.8, 3.9, and if it's 4.5, that's great. Okay, good. Anything else on this? Any questions on this? Okay. Let's see, if there's nothing else, we can go to the bond proceeds transfers.
Do you want it? No, I'm good. Everybody has it's in the agenda. It's on the agenda, so we're good. So in front of you, you have an authorization. It's just, it's not required to close these out, but we do it for transparency, so you can see it. And we go through that process because it's a better closure, especially with the audit, to show what we're doing with it. So we do an authorization. In front of you, we're closing 64 projects from an authorization standpoint because that needs to come out of the audit book. And of that, we have 1.3 million of excess funds that were bonded and we will not use with those projects being closed. And we're reassigning them to other authorized but not bonded projects between the Schedule A,
The
B,
big
and C.
savings.
So I'm looking for an approval for the authorization as stated in the agenda.
How am I supposed to look at this page? This total is 1.3 and then,
Schedule A are ones where there's no excess. We spent what was bonded. So the Schedule A, that's why we're just closing the projects because we need to close that authorization down. Schedule B are all the projects that we're closing that has a dollar amount assigned to it that is no longer needed.
Here's your million oh five.
And they will be closed once I transfer these out. Schedule C are projects we're transferring the funds to from Schedule B. And out of it, the asterisk ones are ones that are being closed as in addition to getting the money.
Do these transfers zero out the recipient Schedule C items?
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's
Except for
really
one. There's only-
27 cents on architecture.
Yeah, we put it through. We clear it all. We just do a schedule and we clear it all. Well, we had 18 last year.
That was the overrun
We had one for 18 cents in last year's clearance.
for radios, but yeah.
So that's still the low. The all-time low is 18 cents.
Cents right
Okay,
now,
all
yeah.
I would have thought the architects could have given you a pass on the 27 cents.
Down to how many, we'll have, after this bunch, we'll have only 213 projects open, major projects open. And out of that 213, 160 of them are belonging to 24 and 25.
Oh, okay.
So
we really
great.
made-
53 left that are cleaning up, yeah. And a lot, yeah.
This has been a good cleanup process over the last.
This
is good.
Yeah.
Plus we got.
Audit, let me tell you.
1,000,003 that we can-
With the documents and
we don't
numbers we have to
to
put
bond
together.
for.
So we're bonding on things we either already own or have already done, like the boiler replacement. It says it's been project closed out, meaning the work is already done.
Sorry, which schedule?
Just on Schedule C.
Yep.
All the ones with the asterisk say project closed out.
Yes,
Does that mean the work has already been done?
correct.
Okay.
I guess, or the vehicle was bought in the case of some of those, right? That's what you're saying.
And so if it's zero, if the transfer zeroes out the recipient funds on Schedule C, then do they get closed?
Only the ones with the asterisks are going to get closed. The top ones are still in the works.
Okay, so these items were open items. We hadn't paid for them yet.
They're authorized. We haven't bonded for them, so we put we've the two things we can do the money with is reassign it to authorized projects or take it back
This
against
is
debt.
tax supported capital. Savings.
No, the separate. This is just all major, your authorized, your 5-year capital
This
plan
is,
for bond.
this is bonded stuff.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah,
And the
okay.
guidance is 2 years plus one, or what's the timing on the timing to use the money before they lose it? And
Oh,
before we move it?
Capital is different. So long as the project is, there's a different one. So we have to bond within 18 months of the project being completed. So
Mhm,
that's one issue.
mhm.
Then the other one is if you have excess funds, you have to have 5 years and 6 months. I don't know what the 6
Okay.
months is for. 5 years and 6 months to actually reassign the funds as well.
Okay.
But we don't have a timeline in place to say how long it's open for. It might be something we want to look at down the road, but because we bond in arrears, we use up that authorization and bond right away. And that's why we're closing the older ones. But we don't have a timeline.
Well, there's a handful from 18 and a few from 19. Everything else is 20, 21, 23. Okay, all right. Right, right.
Okay.
Any other questions? So you need a motion to approve this? Yeah,
Stated in the agenda, so you don't have to read it.
so
So moved.
motion as stated in the agenda
Yeah, motion is stated. So moved.
on the resolution for transferring.
Second.
Is that it? Chris, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None? Okay, so moved. Thank you. Okay, what's next? Is there anything else? We just took care of that, right? The tax support, any other tax supported capital projects?
So,
This is carried forward by, what's this?
yep, so there's a file on your tablets, the tax supported capital rollover, which is 3 pages long, and each page represents kind of something different. The first page, which I'll try to, I know it's tiny, there's kind of a long list here. The first page represents capital projects from FY '24 that, as per the charter, automatically have their budgets rolled forward to FY '25. And this kind of represents that 2-1-1 rule. that
That's
you
what it
had
is. Yep.
Spoke about.
Okay.
So the total here is about 742,000 that's rolling over automatically from FY 24 to 25. The second page is just representing the projects that are being closed out, or the projects that had kind of been completed through FY 24. Because we had made such an effort during the budget process to close out so many of these tax-supported capital projects to have available fund balance to utilize as an offset for tax-supported capital in FY 25, there are not that many projects being closed now, especially that have funds that they're giving back. So there's only about $4,000 or so that are coming back into the fund balance. But these are kind of a list of those projects that are being closed out. And the last is, the last is a list of projects that are older than FY 24 and that need your authorization to roll them forward. The last time I believe that we did this, there were about 2.5 full pages that were voted on, going back to 2017 or so, or maybe even a 2016. And so, over the year and a half or so, we've really kind of tightened up this list, even though it seems pretty extensive, and it totals about 750,000 that needs to be kind of pushed forward to have their budgets made available for FY 25.
How do we get to a situation where we have 2019 projects that still have something to spend on them, like the first 2 or 3? I mean, what's in that? What pavement preservation from 5 years ago?
Oh, pavement management and electric vehicle charging station.
Pavement Preservation.
Oh, preservation, sorry. Yep.
37,351. 2019.
So I would say this list is as of maybe 1 month ago.
Well, I don't want to vote on it if it's not perfect.
Well, it's to authorize the.
I don't know if
push
we want
forward
to.
Of these projects.
If they're done, I don't want to vote to authorize it.
So put another way, so as of a month ago, this was the relevant departments all reported to you that they felt
That
they
these-
still needed.
Yes,
this.
that these projects should be rolled forward.
I just don't understand what could they
No.
possibly be doing from 5 years ago on pavement preservation?
Where?
I mean, it just doesn't make sense. And then the electric charging
What
station, I mean,
pavement?
how long does it take to put in an electric charging station?
I would imagine from the title, playground safety upgrade, ADA evaluation, right? That at the time of the request 5 years ago this was very urgent. Now it's 5 years later, it's still not done.
So the ADA evaluation is completely encumbered. It's actually an ongoing project right now with our consultant. So that the money is completely covered by the consultant. They're working through all the buildings and everything that we're doing as far as incoming road plan. Pavement preservation.
Don't leave that one though. Hang on. I don't follow that at all. You say it's encumbered.
Meaning we have a contract with,
I know, but we approved this 4 years ago.
that's correct.
We're still going through it, though. We haven't gotten it.
With COVID.
And then finally got it approved at the board of selectmen level. They've been working through their plan. Now they're going to come back to us with their final report and implementation with the staff.
Okay. Playground safety? Yeah.
But
I think
the pavement
some of these
one,
also- I think some of these also come to the fact where beforehand, we weren't allowed to put multiple POs, multiple accounts on a purchase order. So you would get to the point where the project was greater than the amount of money that was in the account. You couldn't use that account. You had to start using the next account. And we've been trying to then clean up from prior years because we weren't able to put, now we can put multiple accounts on a purchase order in multiple, I guess, funds on a purchase order. Prior to and we weren't allowed to do that. So if we had $5,000 left and you had a project that was $6,000, you had to start using the next year's money. And that 5,000 sat there until you could utilize it with the project that was $5,000 or less. You had a $4,000 project, you could use it, you'd have $1,000 left. So that was a problem. We've been chewing away at each one of those, trying to consolidate it. But now, because Ann's here, now we can actually, that's Josh's point, when we've taken that pool, we've been able to consolidate it down. But that's the majority of what you see on all these small little items, with the fact that we had to spend next year's money, the current year's money before we spent the prior year's money. Now we're trying to spend the prior year's money with it and then consolidate it down. So you'll see this shrink even further next year, to the point where anything in that, in the multiple year, to Chris's point, would be out. But that's really what happened, to be honest with you, is we couldn't spend it. You could only put one line on a PO. You only put one line on a PO, you had to have enough money in that account to cover. Couldn't do it.
So we should do a sort on this during budget cycle, from at least internally, on each department, what we've got left over. So we have a better sense of, budgeting forward, like, when they come with the budget, how much is left over in this? So that we can reduce the asks by all of this.
Well,
Yeah,
Todd
but
has a good point. which
should
is-
that money come back? I'm going back to Tiger's point. If you have to open a different ticket, the money you didn't spend should come back to the town. We got to reallocate it again. You got to come back and say, we weren't able to spend it. So now I've got to put it into this year, as opposed to carrying these things and rolling them forward.
The majority of these are multi-year, meaning we do a certain amount of work each year. So the overall scheme, the overall amount of work is greater than what's budgeted each year. So we're reluctant to give back because we're still looking at backlog of larger than we have budgeted a year.
I don't know, Tiger. We 2019, the budget was 37,351 for pavement preservation, which I don't even know how much we've spent on pavement in this town since then. And the amount that we want to roll over is 37,351. I don't get that. I just don't get it.
That one, I think, has an anomaly in the account, to be perfectly honest with you, whereby it's showing 37,351.51. I'm current on pavement preservation. I've spent everything in 2023, 2024. 2024 has got $50,000 left encumbered, and I'm waiting on an invoice of $50,000. So the 2024 fiscal year will be complete. 2023 is complete. Everything's complete. That 2019 is an anomaly, I believe, that has where it's showing a negative on another account of the same exact amount.
So this suggests this needs to be scrubbed.
Yeah, and I guess I can understand that there's a complexity when something that's been approved and there's consultants and it's project and it maybe, kind of part in one year and part in another, and I get it. But some of this stuff just looks like, an item to be purchased, right? There's leaf vacuums and loader plows and I don't know what all, but you would have thought it was pick up the phone and tell the guy, yeah, I need one of those. And that's the part that's a little hard to understand.
What would be wrong, just putting this out there, that everything that isn't encumbered, we just don't approve up through 2022.
Oh,
I
okay.
guess last year, if there was some painting, fine.
Yeah, the Board of Ed starting their painting.
Again?
No, you said up to 2022.
Yeah, I think if it was 2023, I get that. I mean, that's, 2023 was last month. A year ago.
Wouldn't that just force, if this really was mission critical, they just have to come back and
Yeah,
ask
put it,
again?
and back to the point, put it in contingency. I know exactly where to put it. Right? No, not kidding. I mean, why would we do that? I don't think this is a good practice, team. I really don't. Thoughts on my idea? I mean, by the way, we don't have to vote on that tonight. We can vote on it in September, but this doesn't feel right, not to have this much money and this many items floating around like that are this old. Something's just, if it's not encumbered, if it's encumbered, to your point, Tiger, I kind of get it. We've ordered something and we just hasn't come, or whatever the case may be. But, there's $500,000 here that's not encumbered. No.
For instance, the loader plow, that means you guys have ordered it, but because of production, you haven't received it yet. Is that what that represents?
Encumbered, yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, okay.
can't
So
kill that.
Yeah, you can't kill
I
that
get
because you
that.
got an order in there. Okay.
It's-
So all of those we
Yeah.
would approve. That's 221,000.
Right.
That's okay.
My other concern is that at the time, I guess Board of Finance was asked, the Board of Selectmen, to approve these funds because there was a playground safety issue, because there was an ADA evaluation, potentially putting the town at risk, and that's still not done. So if that happens now, then we didn't spend that money then, didn't spend it now, and something happens and we're on the hook.
Well, the ADA is in process. So there's a judgment that we are working through. So that one is legitimate in there. And there is going to be money spent and it's in the process of being negotiated and, well, agreed to. There's a legal process around that.
Okay.
So that takes time because it's working with the government and lawyers and things like that. But so that one I wouldn't use as a good example, but I agree with you, the unencumbered things, I'm not quite sure.
Kill them.
My concern is if we have an arbitrary cutoff point to say, what was it, 2021, Todd? you
I
were
said
saying?
23 just because there was a handful of painting on the bottom.
But like, some of the things here, like Waveney Park trails, that sounds like a good thing to me. And maybe there were good reasons they didn't get around to it. I'd hate to have it not happen because of an arbitrary, cutoff.
Some of those also we're trying to combine together multi-years and do a trail extension of work services. So there's reasons why those haven't marched forward. So
But were we to adopt, and I know we haven't agreed to do this, but if we said unencumbered of a certain age is not being approved, if they were mission critical, it would just simply, there'd be, in the next cycle, you'd come back and ask, yeah or no? Right.
But it's like,
It's encumbered, it's in process, there's a contract that matches the appropriated amount, and we seem like we're good to go. If there is something like trails and there's, a legitimate process of, oh, we can combine this, we can do that, and there's a little bit of private money and we just gotta wait. At that point, it's all coming, the only additional burden is you'd come back and ask, right?
we're coming back off cycle, we're coming back to the budget process.
Again, my recommendation would be to transfer all this into the contingency and then come back in September. And to Colin's point, there could be a very good reason why one of these is that way. And by the way, we're starting it next Tuesday. Okay, there's always going to be one of those, and I think we could get our head wrapped around that.
Yeah, but for that Waverly Trail, I mean, it sounds like how you were saying that what you're trying to do is aggregate these things from one year to another. So what that says to me is that the year when we approved the 50,000, somebody in the town knew that 50,000 wasn't enough to do the project. So we get a little bit this year, a little bit next year, and then finally we have a big ball, 150,000, whatever it is, then we can do it. Rather than coming and saying, I need 150,000 to do this project.
Could be.
Not necessarily, it depends on, in certain instances with this, we partner with Conservancy sometimes, and they on a 50-50 split, sometimes not. And then sometimes it comes down to what do we think we should be working on versus then reality will be out there what we should work on in review. So it's not that we try to amalgamate them together, but at times when we do look at that, sometimes it's cost beneficial to do that. So I can't say it's each time.
Again, make a suggestion, come back break this into some pieces. Things that are encumbered, they're in process. I think we can get our head wrapped around that. Things that aren't encumbered, I'm looking at the vacuum leaf system, which we needed in 2021, it's not even encumbered. So maybe there's a story, but anything that's not encumbered, I think we really have to have a conversation if it's older than 2023.
Vacuum leaf system, we can't purchase one for $35,000 because at the time that we got that for budget, they skyrocketed in price. So that
This gets canceled. You got to come back and ask for 50 or 70.
future budget allocation that we have for a leaf system to be able to buy the one together.
Yeah, but this is exactly what I was just saying.
That's what we don't want.
You're aggregating these
Yeah,
things
that's not good.
and it's kind of like,
We're not getting. a
secret
250.
reserves. We can't do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's not good. That's just taking money, holding it to do it. That doesn't work. I don't think that's gonna work.
And,
Tina.
and what this suggests,
I know it wasn't the plan either. The thing
No.
went, of course, I get
but
that.
that, you know, this kind of number suggests that we're over budgeting by $750,000 a year possibly. You know, on a lot of these things. So, you know, that we shouldn't do that. I mean, there should be a flow back and forth between these items as they can't be done. Okay, they can't be done. Back into the budget. We'll look at it next year. Or if it's a mission critical, then yeah, we'll have to look at it off cycle and deal with it.
Again, suggestion, 2022 and older, unencumbered. I think we should roll it back into the contingency, but let's make those final decisions in September and you come back and say, okay, these 10 make sense to do that because they're not gonna happen. Or these 10, no, you don't have quite the whole story. I think we do okay with that, but with not enough of the story, it's hard for me to vote on this tonight. Is that fair, team?
Yeah.
Want to vote on it?
I don't want to vote on it. I mean, if you want to vote on the Board of Ed items down from
Let's just
23.
have the plan. Let's not parse it out now. I think we can, unless you're saying somebody's waiting outside trying to get to work and waiting for us to buy some paint, okay.
Well, they have 24 available. So
Exactly.
I know they are planning to start it right away, but they can do 24. And if it changes, I can address it back to 23. Because their problem is by the time their budget is available to them, it's July. They need to get everything in advance. So some of the money they can't use until the next year. So the Board of Ed has that timing issue. If they miss that opportunity in the summer, they've got to wait, excuse me.
But they have money.
But they have money that they could use right now
Okay.
for the painting.
I'd like to table it then, if we're okay with that, and just come back with a slightly different approach for September. Josh, Tiger, you okay with that? Unless you see something on the list that's really gonna kill you here. If not, we'll do that. That was the rollovers. Is that the only thing you wanted to vote on? No, we have to do.
No, there's a couple
Line
of
item
transfers.
transfers.
Line item transfers.
So there are,
Here's some contingencies.
there's several, just to review, there's I think 4 or so pages of line item transfers totaling 77,000. Those are not to vote on, but they're just departments cleaning up and moving things between their line items. But to vote on, there are a few. There are 4 transfers within FY24 and 1 transfer within FY25. In FY24, there is 37,000 within the sewer operating budget being taken out of CHP gas and electricity to fund the outside sludge hauling contract. There is also 44,800 being transferred into an operating transfer out account, which is then moving to the special project account. Special projects or the grant fund 3601 to kind of make up the remainder of the IT the AV projects that's within the meeting rooms and such. And so that's 31,000 coming from contingency and 13.8 thousand coming from the First Selectmen's economic development line. There is 18,000 being taken from contingency to cover banking and transaction fees within parking. This just represents higher revenue on the meter and pay by phone side. And also, I believe we separated out.
We separated out
booking the revenue and the expenditures as opposed to it having been netted in the past. So that kind of showed a one-time bump there. And there's 20,000 being transferred out of contingency into the part-time elections line of the registrar of voters to kind of make up for an overrun in part-time help and training that they had over the past year. Mostly due to the early voting coming on and just having training for them and staffing coming for them and so on.
Just curious, those dates okay? They're truly FY24, even though they're July activities?
Those are really when I put the dates, when I kind of
When you put it on.
When I put it
they are
on this
related to
list, basically.
24 activity.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, they all are equal to
Yeah.
24.
And the one within FY '25 is when we voted on the budget for debt service, we had the information on the difference, what the actuals for debt service should be, or what the budgeted amount for debt service should be, but we didn't have the breakdown between what should be on the town side versus what should be on the school side. So we kind of just took the difference out of the town side, figuring when we got that schedule, we would just make that quick switch. And this kind of represents that. So it's $100,741 being moved within the various line items of contingency of debt service, as well as 6,722 coming from contingency to kind of, oh no, going to contingency actually, which is the differential there.
I'll make a motion to use up some of that ample contingency.
And refund it the next year.
Okay, can we make a motion for all of the transfers, or do you need one for each
I
year?
think that's fine.
Okay, so motion to approve the transfers as proposed for both fiscal years 24 and 25.
So moved.
Mike,
Moved.
second?
Right, that's what I
Colin?
thought.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, none? Okay, okay.
Very much.
Anything else?
That's all.
All right, thank you, everyone. As I said, unless there's something that pops up, we won't have an August meeting. I know, people are disappointed. We'll have 2 in September.
We're gonna miss each other.
And then off we go again. And I thank you all for everything. Looks like we finished the year pretty well. I need a motion to adjourn. All right, Colin, second motion. Yep. Nick, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Thank you.